He tried to make many arguments to the judge about a video that he wanted to get in. And there was a lot of contention. And I think that he made his point that he thought that something was off. The bottom line is that he definitely went to town to her on cross, making the point that, you know, what you're saying is not really true. It's not feeling like it's true.
The courtroom was still when Brad Pitt took the stand on day 14 of the Diddy trial. Reporters had lined up before sunrise, cameras flashing as armored vans and black SUVs rolled up outside. No one had expected Pitt to appear, not in person, not this soon, and certainly not as a witness. But there he was, dressed in a muted gray suit, eyes heavy with something more than exhaustion. It wasn't a cameo or a publicity stunt. He had been subpoenaed. Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So, did you click the subscribe button? Great! Thank you so much. Now, back to the video.
It sounds like he's being pretty aggressive. He's bringing out all of these old social media posts.
But, you know, I'm not sure exactly how the jury was feeling about it. I did get a sense by looking at a few jurors that they might have some questions, but, you know, leaving that to deliberations.
For weeks, the Diddy trial had dominated headlines. What began as a series of leaked documents and vague testimonies had transformed into one of the most shocking public reckonings in music and Hollywood history. Allegations of coercion, abuse of power, underground parties, hush money, surveillance, and manipulation had reached a fever pitch. Diddy sat at the defense table like a man carved from stone, his expression unreadable, his legal team tight-lipped and cold. Brad's name had been whispered in side conversations early in the trial, often in connection with one particular event from 2015, a private villa party hosted in the south of France where A-listers mingled with royalty, executives, and tech billionaires under tight non-disclosure agreements. Some said it was just another party. Others suggested it was something far more curated, with a purpose that had little to do with entertainment. As Pitt walked to the stand, the silence was deafening. Everyone knew that this moment could reshape the case, perhaps even tip it toward an outcome few thought possible. He was sworn in, and for the first few minutes, his voice was steady, cautious. He answered routine questions about his whereabouts that summer, how he knew the defendant, and what kind of relationship they had maintained over the years. But it was the third line of questioning that changed the energy in the room. The prosecution asked, "Were you present at the event held on July 23, 2015 at the Chateau de Rêve?" Brad paused. "Yes," he finally said. "I was. And was the defendant also present at that event?" "Yes." "And can you describe what you witnessed that evening?" That question hung in the air like a guillotine. The gallery leaned forward. Even Diddy shifted slightly in his chair. Pitt hesitated, not because he was unsure, but because he was weighing the consequences. Then, slowly, carefully, he began to speak. He described the atmosphere as oddly choreographed. While most parties had a natural ebb and flow, this one felt scripted. The guest list had been handpicked, with attendees required to surrender their phones at the gate. Bodyguards weren't just present. They were stationed in corridors like palace guards. There were no cameras, no press, just conversations over billion-dollar deals and whispered introductions between people who normally lived behind shadows. Brad detailed a room upstairs, one that several people had mentioned that night, but no one seemed eager to enter. He said he saw several individuals, including the defendant, escorting certain guests into that room throughout the night. None of them returned looking the same. Some looked dazed. Others seemed not entirely aware of where they were. When asked directly if he saw Diddy doing anything illegal, Brad took a breath. "I saw him lead someone in," he said. "Someone who didn't look like they wanted to go." The judge called for a recess not long after. Whispers erupted in the courtroom, reporters scurried out, phones were lit up again outside the premises. No one had expected Brad Pitt to be the one to pull open the curtain, but he had, even if only slightly. And what he exposed was enough to blow a hole in the defense's claim that Diddy's parties were just exclusive but harmless gatherings of the elite. During the recess, social media exploded. Clips from inside the courtroom leaked. Anonymous sources claimed Pitt's testimony had triggered panic in other Hollywood circles, with more witnesses reportedly preparing to step forward now that someone of his caliber had spoken. Reddit threads lit up with old rumors, connecting Pitt's appearance with long-buried stories of him distancing himself from the music mogul in the mid-2000s and teens. Insiders said Brad had grown increasingly uncomfortable with Diddy's inner circle after that France trip and slowly began cutting ties. When the court resumed, Pitt was asked one final question. "Why did you decide to testify today?" He didn't blink. "Because it's time," he said. "Because too many people have been quiet for too long." The impact of that sentence was immediate. The courtroom was hushed, the judge gave a nod, and Pitt was excused. He walked off the stand and out the back door. No press, no comments, no entourage. Just a man who, for the first time in years, looked like he had put something to rest. That night, headlines across the world blared the same message: Brad Pitt breaks silence. But behind the dramatic font and flashing banners was something deeper, a shift. His words had added credibility to the prosecution's case and dealt a heavy blow to Diddy's already crumbling public image. What had once been dismissed as hearsay and conspiracy now felt disturbingly real. People began asking more questions. What really happened at those private events? Who else knew? Why had so many stayed silent? Legal analysts began speculating that Pitt's testimony could compel other celebrities to come forward, and that the court might even consider unsealing a set of redacted names tied to the 2015 Villa roster. The implications were massive. Even beyond the courtroom, it changed things. Victims' advocates called it a watershed moment. Former employees and staff members who had previously been scared to speak were reaching out to journalists. The Diddy trial was no longer just about one man. It was about a culture of protection, of silence, and the cost of complicity. And Brad Pitt had cracked it open with barely a paragraph. Sources close to him said he wrestled with the decision for months, fearing retaliation and personal fallout. But those close to the case said his account matched others, almost perfectly. That kind of consistency from someone of his stature couldn't be ignored. Whether Diddy would be convicted remained uncertain. The legal process still had weeks to go, but the tone had shifted. With Pitt's testimony on record, the prosecution had what it needed. Not just credibility, but momentum. And Diddy, once untouchable, now looked visibly shaken for the first time since the trial began. By morning, news vans surrounded the courthouse. Editorials were already comparing the moment to other watershed testimonies that redefined Hollywood accountability. Pitt hadn't named names. He hadn't dramatized, but what he said was enough to suggest that the rot went far deeper than anyone was prepared to admit. The trial had entered a new phase, and in doing so, it dragged into daylight the secrets that had been buried behind mansion walls and music deals for over a decade. Whatever came next, it was clear. This wasn't just about justice for one night, one party, or one individual. It was about unraveling the entire architecture of control that allowed it to happen in the first place. And now, thanks to Day 14, the world was finally paying attention.